You're live.
There. Can I have your attention? It is time to convene the March 22nd full meeting of the Board of Trustees. So we'll have a roll call just to see who's here, okay?
Fleming's
Turn
present.
your microphones on.
Yeah, here. Geist. Here. Harper.
Here.
Oakley.
Here.
Sigardi.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Sigardi, if you would answer these questions, can you simultaneously hear and speak to the board members?
I can.
Will you please identify any persons present in the location from which you are calling?
I'm alone.
And please confirm that you received the board materials in advance of the meeting.
I did. Thank you.
Stites.
Here.
Van Hooser.
Here.
Wilmore.
Here.
Jones.
Here. Thank you. Before we start the meeting, we have a special presentation. It's not on the agenda, but in planning for this meeting and other meetings, I talked to Dr. Oldham, and I feel like it's very important for us to start every meeting centered on students and to get our focus in the right direction. And so today, I mean, this is our product. This is why we're here. This is why we all have such passionate discussions about things, to figure out the best way to educate our future, really. So anyway, today I have someone special to introduce. I'm going to read this. Forgive me for doing it, but I can't remember it all. So, Madison Davis recently earned the distinction of being the first national champion speaker in the Tennessee Tech speech and debate team's long and impressive history. She is this year's national champion speaker in novice debate for the National Parliamentary Debate Association. Over spring break, Madison won the state champion speaker title in novice NPDA debate. Plus, she and a teammate, Derek Sarmiento, became the state champion team, and the entire speech and debate team is the 7th best team of its size in the country. Madison is joined today by assistant speech and debate coach Jacob Metz, an instructor of communication studies, and by Dr. Graham Cash. It seems appropriate to give Madison a minute with a microphone to share her thoughts about her experience at Tech and what it takes to be a national champion. So, Madison. Not yet.
Oh, there we go. All right, thank you. Yes, I'll just keep my remarks very brief. I know everything that's on your agenda today is extremely important. You've got a lot to get to. As you mentioned, I am the champion speaker in my division currently. And our team as a whole is 7th in our division, and 2 of our 3 NPDA pairings made it to the championship out rounds. So what that means is that we have some of the best debate pairings in the entire nation. And beyond that, this region proved in this comprehensive tournament that this is the most competitive debate region in the country. And it's an honor to be a part of Tennessee Tech's debate team, and it's an honor to compete against all these very talented debaters, both in our circuit and nationwide. I and the debate team thank you for inviting me here today and for helping us celebrate this achievement. Today I represent not only myself but the debate team, because debate is first and foremost a team sport. I wouldn't be where I am today without my wonderful coaches and of course all the other members of the debate team. Debate is an educational sport, and it is integral to the well-rounded education that we receive here at Tech. And of course, thank you for all that you do for our program as well as the university as a whole. I love being a student at Tennessee Tech, and I think that being a part of the debate team and other programs that you support as members of the Board of Trustees make being here even more colorful of an experience. Being the first national champion in the debate team's history is of course a great honor, but it's even more encouraging when we look at how this means that the debate team is more competitive than it has ever been. And we need your continued support to continue to be more competitive in the future. And we want to grow just as our university is growing, and we need you to continue to support us so that we can do that in the future. And I look forward to celebrating many more national championships, not only for myself, but for the rest of the debate team. Thank you.
Madison. I'm sorry, thank you so much. Could you introduce your faculty and staff that are here in support of you and any other members of your team, or is anyone else here?
Yes, so right here, this is Jacob Metz, Professor Jacob Metz. He's the assistant coach, and then this is Dr. Graham Cash. He's the head coach of the debate team. And then over there in the corner, this is our team president, Marcelo Gonzalez. I believe he's here in his capacity with the Oracle, so, yep. So yeah, these are your representatives of the debate team today.
Thank you so much for honoring us.
Madison, what are you studying? Madison, what are you studying and where are you from?
I am from Hendersonville, Tennessee. That's about 20 minutes north of Nashville. I attended school in Sumner County, if you're familiar with that area. I'm studying political science and journalism, and I am completing 2 degrees at the same time in both of those subjects, respectively.
Thank you. Very
Thank you so much.
impressive. Thank
I
you.
have a question. You said you hope that we would be able to support the debate team.
Correct.
Do you have anything in mind?
Well, we were so fortunate to be able to attend Pi Kappa Delta, the National Comprehensive Tournament, this year because it was in Nashville. Last year, it was in Boise, Idaho, and this next year, it's going to be at Hofstra University in New York. And so when we look at traveling out of state for these types of tournaments, we look at, of course, we need a larger travel budget to be able to do that. And so next year, of course, we would love to have the resources to be able to take our entire team to Hofstra to compete as we look at being extremely competitive at that tournament next year.
That's
Thank
Mr.
you.
Johnny Stites if you need to see him next year.
I will keep that in mind. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to suggest that maybe we get the coaches in here to help us with debate because we seem to have a little trouble debating on this board.
Thank you for that comment. Thank you again. We need to move on with the agenda, but thank you so much. Okay, moving on, we have item agenda number 2, which is just approval of the minutes. The minutes should have all appeared in your board books and should have been reviewed. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
We have a motion made by Trudy Harper, and do we have a second? Seconded by Johnny Stites. Any questions or concerns about the minutes? Seeing none, and we have to have a roll call vote as Perna is on the phone, so okay.
Fleming,
Aye.
Geist,
Aye.
Harper,
Aye.
Oakley, Sigardi,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Van Hooser,
Aye.
Wilmore,
Aye.
Jones.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all. So the next item on our agenda is item number 3. It's election of a student trustee. And I think this is a very exciting time. I know that Nick Russell did an outstanding job. I don't mind saying at the beginning, it's really a difficult thing to do. I mean, this is due to the rules of the Board of Trustees, we sort of have to do this in public. I would much prefer to interview you each privately and individually to move forward, but we can't do that. So I'll give a brief introduction, and then I'll ask each of you to speak, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and give us your impressions of why you want to serve and how you think you can impact this board. So, just briefly, the Focus Act requires the board to select a student as a non-voting member. Tennessee Tech Student Government Association developed a process for selecting 3 candidates to present to the board for consideration. The candidates selected by the SGA are in alphabetical order, and please stand up as I call your name. Forrest Allard. Mr. Allard is currently a junior and is majoring in accounting and economics. Sawyer Hall. Mr. Hall is currently a freshman and is majoring in electrical engineering. Michaela Holton. Ms. Holton is a graduate student and is working on her master's degree in curriculum and instruction. All have indicated that they will be enrolled at Tennessee Tech through March of 2019, which would fulfill their term on this board. The diligent board book contains additional information about the nominees. So with that, I would ask maybe Forrest, if you want to start us off and tell us a little bit about yourselves. And board members, you are welcome to ask questions. Of course, we have a full agenda, so we'll manage it as we see fit. So.
Thank you. I'm a firm believer in the concept of brevity as a point of pride, so I promise not to be too long-winded with this. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Forrest Allard. As he mentioned, I'm a double degree student with the College of Business studying accounting and economics. And come fall 2019, I will be pursuing a PhD in economics to potentially teach at a university, hopefully much like Tennessee Tech, hopefully Tennessee Tech in the far future. I would like to extend my thanks to all of you for inviting us here today. It truly is an honor to even be selected to come speak to the board, let alone being considered as one of the student trustees. So I thank you for that. There are 3 main reasons as to why I am interested in serving as a student trustee. The first is in service to Tennessee Tech. During my time at Tennessee Tech, I have received a great amount of assistance and personal development When I first came here, I was an extremely shy individual. I could not professionally network, I could not communicate, and as a result, I was really limited in my opportunities. And so by coming to Tech, I got the opportunity to really reach out, come out of my shell, spread my wings, and as a result, I feel like I've really been able to flourish professionally. I've gotten to work alongside all sorts of professionals, different types of students. I've gotten to explore the state, the country through extracurricular activities, and I've even been able to explore internationally through programs of study. As I mentioned before, I'm interested in becoming a professor at a public university much like Tennessee Tech, so I feel that service to an organization such as this would give me a great deal of experience in dealing with the internal logistics of the university, and I feel like it'd be invaluable to me as a professor. And lastly, my interest is, quite honestly, in leadership. I have served as a leader in pretty much every organization I'm in on campus. I represented the Business Information Technology Scholars as their president during a time where there was a rather important merger, and I'm not even a BIT major. So I've been brought in quite a few situations as a logistics manager. I've served as the Director and Vice President of Professional Affairs for Beta Alpha Psi, which requires me to maintain contact with the National Board of Standards, as well as cultivating professional relationships between students and professionals across the state of Tennessee. And lastly, I served as the Secretary of the College of Business Student Ambassadors, which has allowed me to both serve my college and coordinate the back-end logistics of running a lot of the events that we have within the College of Business, such as Etiquette Dinner and the Fall Celebration Dinner and a lot of our other mock interview nights and things like that. So I've gotten a wide variety of experiences leading within different student organizations, and I really feel like an opportunity to lead at this level would be the ultimate experience. Do any of you have any questions for me?
One not a question, but I thought in looking at the material you submitted, if you could in just 2 or 3 sentences, I thought one of the interesting things was the important issues that you identified, which I thought was pretty insightful. So if people don't remember that, you may want to take a sentence or two on that.
Sure. So one of the issues that I identified is going to be long-term growth versus short-term growing pains. With the unfortunate nature as it is with a public university, long-term growth, as always, causes short-term growing pains, you know, construction, traffic, all sorts of issues. And as a result of that, the individuals who suffer from these short-term growing pains are not going to be present when the long-term benefits from this growth are present. That can naturally be an issue. So I feel one of the biggest issues we are going to face as a university moving forward is addressing these issues and making sure these growing pains are not such that it seems unfair to the students and that all students are invested in the long-term growth of the university as a whole.
Thank you, Forrest. I assure you that short-term growing pains are not only felt by students.
So, thank you.
Sawyer.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Sawyer Hall. I am a spring semester freshman student for electrical engineering. I have not been at Tech as long as the other 2 candidates, but I can tell you that within this short time that I've come to love this university very fast. I believe that I'm a great representation of the average student, which sounds kind of weird, you know, saying that I'm an average, but I believe that any student that comes to Tennessee Tech, even the average, is extraordinary. I believe that these students can do, excuse me, I believe that these students can do whatever that they need to do through Tennessee Tech. With saying that I'm a good student to represent these students is to say that I'm not afraid to go out and talk to these students. With many SGA events that I have attended to, I have not been afraid to walk up to random students to ask their opinions on how they want to see the university grow or how they feel about an issue that may come up with the university. I'm also a younger student, which the other 2 candidates are older and they are looking towards the end of their times at Tennessee Tech, but I'm hoping to further my education as much as I can here to be where I can serve as much as I can on boards like this and leadership positions such this. and I also plan to stay involved. I've already, within these couple months that I've been here, I feel like I have went beyond to stay involved with the campus into the student life, and I really hope that I can further that through this experience.
Thank you very much. Michaela? I'm sorry, any questions for Sawyer?
Could I ask the same question?
Yes, please.
In looking at your, the submission that you gave us, I thought you also had a very insightful comment when you were asked about the important issues you believe students face. So you might want to comment on that.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that one really important issue for the students is communication. We're going to this university right now, and we're paying, we all know what we're paying to come to this university to experience this. And I feel like communication between the staff and the students, or even the higher-ups, and saying like what we're doing right now or what we're looking at to advance the university is very important to our students. And I feel like building that communication will also bring in more students, because they will know what they'll be getting into. They will know how they're going to be affected by what they're paying for. And so I believe that this is very important to the students.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Any other questions? Michaela?
First off, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I want to thank you today for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you and for your consideration for allowing me to be on your board. I am Michaela Holton. I am currently starting out in my graduate degree program for secondary education, focus in history, but I have just recently graduated in December with my bachelor's degree in political science. So even though I have been here a long time, I know what it takes to be a student here at Tennessee Tech and complete the degree. I'm all for the legacy of Tennessee Tech. I'm from Overton County, and so my exposure to Tennessee Tech has been lifelong. But I never really knew the sense of community that this university portrayed within the students and the faculty and staff until my mom started working here in Res Life back 2001, 2002. And I was about 6 years old at the time. Christmas party was a big thing back then, and I just remember that. That was the one thing I still remember. So just to be a member of this community is something big for me. Fast forward about 12 years, I'm graduating high school, and I'm entering Tennessee Tech as a student and registering for classes, wondering, where am I going to fit in? What am I going to be able to do for this little community in this university? But how can I make a difference, too, for the future students? Because I know I've got a little sister that is already looking at Tennessee Tech, and she's a sophomore in high school. So what can I do for those students? And that's whenever I found the Student Government Association. I applied and was selected as one of the 10 freshman senators, and up until last year, last May, I had been a part of student government. I took a break from that to be able to focus on my studies as well as being a part of your student board as well until I graduated, and now I'm looking to try and get back into the university and be impactful once more. Because of my involvement with student government, I've had a voice for the students on the Teacher Education Committee, Curriculum Committee, and Academic Council, and that's allowed me to see the way the university works, how it goes step by step by step, and being able to help with the board has also let me see the end result and see how far it goes. I've also been a member of the President's Ambassadors for the last year as well. So now I'm just going to end my time and say thank you for your consideration, and also want to congratulate you guys on your first year, finishing up this first year. So congratulations, and questions at this time?
Thank you.
You the same question, because we did ask everybody to identify what they thought some issues that were important to the students were. So this is one of your,
Well, while communication and the growing pains are major issues, I also think that students try to focus on the little bitty things. Parking, for example. That's just one small part of the university as a whole. But then you also have to look at the safety of students. That was a big thing my freshman year, was how lighting affected the safety, as well as having police telephones, the emergency phones. I didn't see as many, and that was actually my very first bill I wrote as a freshman senator. So I mean, safety as well as the communication, growing pains, but I really think the students focus on the nitty-gritty, little bitty details that we focus on, but it's the bigger picture we try to look at. So going forward, I would try to look at the small details in order to help you look at the big picture as well.
Thank you very much. So having heard from all three nominees from the student government, it's a difficult process on how to proceed. I think in the past we simply called for a motion from the floor, and I see no other way but to charge forward with that, unless there are any other questions for any of the students. Well, given that, I don't know, Barbara, you asked the most questions. Do you have a nominee that you would like to put forward?
Somebody help me. I like them all. And the only consideration I would have is we had this situation with a great student who we didn't have for the whole term. So in that way, and this is assuming that all of these students will be involved with the Student Advisory Board as we had before. So I don't want to lose any of them. I guess, and I love all of them, I guess based on where they are in the process, I think I'd go with Forrest, but
I second the motion.
Okay, we've got a motion then.
So we have a motion made and a seconded. Before I call the question, is there any other discussion, or does anybody want to nominate someone else?
I don't necessarily want to nominate someone else, but I can tell you, I think we've all lived our lives and aspire to do things. And for someone, a freshman that's been here one semester, to come up here and stand in front of this board and say, hey, I want to be involved, that's a big dang deal. And for someone that's in graduate school, got that in front of you to say, hey, I've been involved at this point, I want to be more involved.
He's nominating all three.
Yeah, so I think that's impressive. I think it's something that's noteworthy, and I'd hate for us to go through this process and not at least state that on both ends of the spectrum. So I think that's like I said, it's noteworthy.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that the three of you have demonstrated a maturity and a professionalism for wanting to get involved and wanting to assert yourselves into the process that is highly commendable. And I thank you all for that so much. That attitude and that approach to life will benefit you and serve you very well. So we have a motion and we have a second. So all in favor of accepting Forrest Allard as our student representative?
Roll call vote.
Kay will call the roll.
Fleming.
Aye.
Geist.
Aye.
Harper.
Aye.
Oakley.
Pass. I wanted the opportunity to nominate somebody else, but I missed it. I see we do this every year, and we don't sometimes get to vote on who we want to.
Well, we have a motion
I'll pass.
on the floor. Sorry. So
Sigardi.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Van Hooser.
Aye.
Wilmore.
Aye.
Jones.
aye.
8 ayes, 1 present, not voting.
So motion carries. Forrest Allard, congratulations and welcome to our board. Please come take a seat here. I'm sorry you have to sit by Mr. Oakley, but come on up.
And Tom, again, you guys are all great. You know, Barry's right. Honestly, The difference to me was somebody starting out, somebody that could potentially leave, and somebody right in the middle of the game. But we're going to count on you very much for advice when we need, along with Rachel, who's been phenomenal, when we need student input, which is, as Tom has said, all the time.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Yeah, and one other comment too, and we did this last year. We asked that the other two nominees serve almost as a student counsel to our acting board member. And I would ask you both to, and Michaela, you did that before, you know the ropes, and even at lunchtime you mentioned that you felt like, as a student counsel, I don't know what to call it, but as an advisor, I guess, to our board member, that there's more that could be done. So I would ask the two of you, again, to do the same and attend all of our board members, all of our board meetings, and please let Forrest know your opinions and thoughts and advise him as you see fit. Because having a freshman, having a graduate student, I think this gives us a wonderful basis for a student representative. Do you all agree? Thank you very much. Forrest, do you have anything else you'd like to say before we continue the meeting?
I'd just like to add that you guys definitely were. I would have been happy with either of you, and I would have gladly observed alongside you. And I'm glad to have you working with me now.
Thank you very much. Well
One
done.
question for you.
Yes.
Do we get him for our committee and this group for our committee? Because Nick was on our committee before.
You signing up for him already, aren't you?
Yeah.
Lobbying.
Yes.
I see no reason not to. So I think that's where it should be. So I think that's exactly right. So do you need any other? I think that's taken care of. Okay, so we're ready for agenda item number 4, the President's report. So Dr. Oldham.
Well, good afternoon. It's always an exciting time to have a board meeting. It's good to have all of you on campus again. Enjoyed this morning's committee meetings. A lot of active discussion and a lot of good work was been done. Before I start my official report, I want to recognize one of our board members. I've done this in the past with Barry with his award, but I'm honored to be able to congratulate on behalf of all of us Dr. Melissa Geist this afternoon. She's a recent recipient of the American Nurses Credentialing Center's 2018 Board Certified Nurse Award in Pediatric Primary Care Nurse Practitioner. Nominated nurses have made significant contributions in the area of professional practice, education, research, or service. Nominations are judged for innovation, collaboration, leadership, and professional risk-taking and patient-centered care. So I think it's just another great example of not only the caliber of people that we have on the board, certainly, but the caliber of people that we have here on campus. And Melissa's activities with students are very well documented on this campus. So congratulations to her. The bulk of my report today will actually be taken up by a report on the status of the strategic planning group. And I'm going to ask Dean Lisa Zagumny and Dean Tom Payne if you would go ahead and be making your way up here. I'm going to turn this over to them. I do want to say, as they come to the podium, that they have led an excellent group of individuals, a large group of individuals that have done an extensive amount of work over the last few months on this campus, interacting with a lot of people, and they've done exactly what they've been charged to do, and that's to put their very best ideas on the table. And they've got, like I said, an excellent group to help drive that, and they've created, through a lot of energy of their own, they've put some wonderful ideas on the table. I encouraged them to come back with something that not only challenged all of us, but scared us a little bit, and I can assure you that they have scared me pretty well. So I'll turn it over to Lisa and Tom and let them take it from here.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, y'all. Thanks, President. That was not in our rehearsal, was it?
No, not at all.
But it got our attention. There we go.
Ta-da!
Well, last August, President Oldham convened our 15-member Strategic Planning Committee and charged us to assess and embrace the transformative change that faces higher education. We were also asked to develop a directional framework that provides value for our students and our constituents, leverages our strengths, and distinguishes Tennessee Tech as a unique, purposeful, and impactful institution.
During the past 8 months, committee members have met with more than 700 stakeholders. Through interactive forums, interviews, and conversations, students, alumni, faculty, staff, and business, government, and community leaders have informed the development of a clear and cohesive vision and a firm foundation for action.
So you all are probably aware of this, but Tennessee Tech's current mission statement is 280 words long, and it points out the widest range of programs, degree levels, centers of excellence, regions, and dimensions of diversity. We've learned from our conversations that in spite of, and perhaps due to, its expansive scope, the current mission statement fails to capture the uniqueness and richness that is Tennessee Tech. What has emerged is a mission that, while inclusive, is much more intentional about what Tech is and what Tech can and what Tech should do. And as we look toward Tech tomorrow, we are also excited to share this, a clear and cohesive, inspirational vision, a vision that speaks to our aspirations and provides a picture of what success looks like for Tennessee Tech. As Tennessee's technological university, we will achieve national prominence and impact through our engaged faculty and career-ready graduates known for their creativity, their tenacity, and their analytical approach to problem solving.
Our core principles speak to who we are, what we believe. These are the foundational values that keep us firmly on course as we navigate through the challenge and opportunity that is higher education. We expect and produce high academic achievement, foster collaboration, exemplify integrity, and inspire creativity and realized potential for the entire campus community. We collaborate with community members and organizations to advance positive societal and economic change. We purposefully innovate in all we do.
In terms of student success, we empower students to realize their potential, craft individualized experiences, and discover their passion. We are committed to a diverse and welcoming community and provide a campus size and atmosphere that fosters personal attention and fit. And finally, and importantly, we provide a high return on investment from our state, tuition, and donor resources, and we foster productive, responsible, and caring contributors to society.
We tap into our students' passion and enthusiasm to prepare them academically and for life with increased relevance and effectiveness achieved through transdisciplinary collaboration. Make no mistake, we expect our students to leave Tech career ready, technically competent with the knowledge and drive to be lifelong learners. We also expect our graduates to be life ready as individuals with context, with an ethical foundation, with an expectation to give of themselves and their resources to improve others' lives and add value to their communities.
So what you see now are several, a list of both our priorities, our primary actions, and we'll go through these. There are 4 primary goals.
So these are the priority actions that are attached to the goal of education for life. So as you review these actions, please keep in mind that they are supported by more specific tactics in developing metrics. For example, we will incorporate multiple experiential learning opportunities in all undergraduate programs. We will evaluate and transform programs, courses, and more so that experiential learning permeates the educational process, cumulatively and systematically developing students' career and societal readiness. Scaffolding will support student growth from speakers and career mentors to in-class cases, partnership projects. These include, but are not limited to, clinicals, internships, travel abroad, professional conferences, and other opportunities.
Next, we innovate in all we do. President Oldham's initial charge included finding technology at the core of change and adding value for those we serve. We've had hundreds of conversations. So, as Lisa indicated before, with those 700 different individual conversations, we've had literally hundreds of those and have validated and strengthened that charge that the President gave us. And our committee and our campus have responded to it. To be clear, this innovation does not connote change for change's sake. Rather, it's innovation with meaning, with relevance. It's fostered by creativity and a spirit of entrepreneurship, but it's grounded in knowledge and an understanding of what is needed. As an example of our innovation goal, every college will develop and implement technology-infused programs. Drawing on our strengths as a comprehensive university, these programs will vary in application and content, but will each share a bond of infusing and leveraging technology. And each of these will be vetted through a determination of workforce demand, societal need, and financial viability. This also relates to the application of technology. Nobel Prize-winning economist William Baumol tells us that those that do not embrace technology will see their prices, and in fact their costs, rise in perpetuity. Consistent with our goal to provide lifelong learning and stackable credentials, and we'd be glad to talk a little bit more about that, we'll prioritize adult learners through online and hybrid systems, and these and other deliverables and modalities will increase accessibility, expand our reach, and enhance our impact and our reputation, all with academic excellence and quality at the center of our activities.
Improving interoperability is our goal. From processes and procedures to strategic investment, we are committed to optimizing resources. This is a goal that works backward from individuals' total experience, from prospective student to alumni to partner with tech, one that strives to make processes and operations seamless, effective, and efficient for students, faculty, staff, administrators, and external constituents. One priority to bolster exceptional stewardship is to increase the size and effectiveness of scholarship endowments. We will initiate a pooled endowment fund to provide need-based scholarships and internships to qualified students, those that fall in the gap that exists between Pell Grant recipients and those that receive ACT or GPA-based awards. Another priority action to further support exceptional stewardship is to continue to develop, implement, and evaluate a dynamic long-term budget model that informs effective financial management planning and consistent strategic investment. This will involve inculcating the budget process at every level and providing predictive analytics to assure the financial efficacy of existing and proposed programs.
Engagement for impact. From economic and workforce development to cultural impact, we're committed to sustainable partnerships and impactful engagement. Relationships today for a university are not simply preferable, they are vital to our success. We are committed to building sustained and mutually beneficial partnerships that prepare our students, inform our priorities, and serve our communities. You'll see on the first priority action that we will modernize, adapt, and create academic programs, continuing education certificates, and by the way, I'll say that we also now have several certificates that are in the planning stages that are academic certificates, so those can be either non-credit or for credit. And we'll adapt other training activities that are consistent with our experiential learning goals and our goals for lifelong learning and stackable credentials that are responsive to impactful engagement. For example, a specific tactic underneath these action items is to be the leading producer, Lisa, of math and science teachers for Tennessee Public Schools. More broadly, and informed by input from our stakeholders and to assure currency and relevance, we will evaluate and improve curricular and co-curricular programs to meet workforce and societal needs.
We are excited about the progress we've made to date, with thanks to a large number of people. For the past few weeks, we've been developing tactics. As we move forward, we'll be refining tactics and developing related metrics. Thank you, board members and Chairman Jones.
Thank you very much. Two comments. There is a booklet on the strategic plan on the diligent board, if you want to review that. And yeah, I think, yeah, that's right, in the packet as well. Are there any other comments or discussion regarding the strategic plan?
I have one comment. If this plan goes exactly as you envisioned it, how will this school look differently in 10 years?
Wow. So, Johnny, it's a great question. I think as fast as things change today, you know, it's something that Dwight Eisenhower said. You know, he said planning is nothing, but the plan is everything. If we look out, and the pace of change is so great, if we look out for the next 3 to 5 years, I think that sets the stage for the next 10. But I wouldn't presume, you know, to say that, wow, with this much change, this change in technology, this change in society that's upon us, things are going to look a lot different than even we envision at this point. But seeing out there 3 to 5, see a lot more students that are more involved both in their communities and with those institutions that they will serve in the future upon graduation. I think, you know, coming off that stage at graduation will be a much more seamless transaction than it has been in the past. That will be something that will be natural for students because they've been engaged through experiential learning, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And so whether that's through projects, through research, through internships, through practicums, through clinicals, whatever those situations are, we're expanding those. And one of the things you noticed in the plan was we're not only expanding those experiences, we're scaffolding. You notice that Lisa used that term, scaffolding. We're building from the freshman year on. It just seems like yesterday for us when you came in. and it's been so fast, hasn't it? And building upon those experiences where maybe in the freshman year, the students experience a speaker and they get involved in some of the organizations. Maybe they even start joining student organizations. And maybe in their next year, they actually have a travel experience. And then the next year, they're doing an internship. And then the next year, they have a truly in-depth, because we're not just counting numbers here about involvement. We're looking to the depth and the impact of that involvement. I think the other thing, Johnny, just very quickly, is that we're going to merge the best of what is high tech and high touch. That is, that we're going to have great relationships with students and personal relationships that get to what their interests are, what their passions are. But we're also going to leverage technology. And so for those things that are knowledge-based, that they can pick out now, you know, you can Google just about anything. Well, we want to give them the skills as problem solvers to vet out information. What's great information? What's good data? How do I present that data? How do I solve problems? And as they do that, they mature through a process that will allow them, whether they're certificates along the way toward their degree, and even as they move into master's degrees or their professional certificates, that will provide a platform for all that. So we'll leverage that technology in doing that, and that high-tech, high-touch will manifest itself in very interesting ways. The online technology will be directly augmented by learning and collaboration spaces that look a lot different than when we were in school. That where rows of desks will be replaced by interactive groups working together, and you know, we as professors are going to be challenged because we're going to become coaches and advisors and counselors and all of that, as well as teaching content and working with students to get them through these different stages.
Could I ask one follow-up
Sure.
question? I really like that because I got my master's and it was all online and I missed the touch part. And I think that is important because the people that teach you are oftentimes your mentors, your coaches. Do you envision a way that would become part of the assessment of the faculty as they are looking at this touch part of the curricula?
Yes, I think it's already part of faculty assessment, an agreement on responsibilities and the advising that we do with our students. But I think it's going to be more organic, right? That we have our faculty really working directly one-on-one with students, or multiple faculty members working with groups of students. I think that's one of the changes we're going to see, is we're going to see students, graduates who are better prepared to work in teams through this process of those scaffolded experiences. And they'll be working across discipline boundaries. So it won't just be a faculty member in their discipline, it'll be a group of faculty members across disciplines. So I think
Right.
that'll make it much more rich.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you know, we get excited about this stuff. But if you'll notice, and I think it's in the packet, one of our tactics that we drill down into is to reward faculty, hire faculty with these same, and that's one reason we thought it was important to go through the values, or what we call our core principles. And it was important because as we hire people, we want them to be people who, regardless of the discipline they're in, they're the individuals who have a background, aptitude, and desire to help those students through those experiences, to be part of that. So that, yes, classroom teaching is very important. Yes, research is very important, all those things. But if those individuals that we hire and that we develop as faculty at Tennessee Tech, if they can't work with students to help them connect with those organizations that they're going to be working for in the future, if they can't work to develop them, whether it's through cultural transitions and all those soft skills that we know they need, if they can't help in doing that or play a role in doing that, we can find other people that can teach really well and do research. So part of our culture is, and it has been, and that's one of the things, one of the students talked about, the legacy of tech. That's so important, that we have a culture and a history that we care about the students at that level. We want to continue that, but we want to incent that. So as they're promoted, as Lisa indicated, on our agreement of responsibilities, we could see adding some of that to say engagement and participation and all of that, and giving the faculty resources to do that.
Mr. Chairman, do you have time for a couple more questions, or how close are we
Sure,
on
we're going to
time?
go to 7 or 8 tonight, so.
No,
go ahead.
I'm happy to, I'm happy to ask
No, go
offline
ahead.
if you'd rather.
It's okay. It's important.
As I read through this plan, I tried to think about what's not here, because that's how I was taught to think as an engineer at Tennessee Tech. And the thing that I didn't see at all, and maybe I just missed it, was what are we doing to recruit a better diverse student body? I saw more about recruiting faculty and getting better representation of underrepresented groups. And I'd like for you to just think about what you're doing about underrepresented students, because I didn't see that as even a tactic, right? And then one more, and I'll just offer a comment in support of under your stewardship objective. Your tactic C, Romanet 1, is educate the university community on the budget model. I can't really tell you, those words shook my world when I read them. I thought, now wouldn't that be something if we all understood the budget model? Because as a board we're learning, but I don't think the faculty, I mean, I am sort of a faculty member, I'm an unpaid faculty member, and I didn't understand the budget model, and I don't think the alums that are involved in advisory roles understand the budget model. Tom and I have both served on advisory boards, and I know you all have those in your colleges as well. So I just ask you to think about that. I know you said community, which I trust meant all of those people, but I don't think you can touch enough people with the budget model. So those are my two comments.
That was very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just one, Trudy, comment on that. It's extremely important, as you said, because we can see, the outputs from the budget model, and we can see the margins that are generated and all those things. But what's really exciting at this point, and really I'd like to thank Clary and Emily for putting a lot of this together and working with us to have not only an understanding of the budget model on sort of the top level, but understanding how it applies to the units. So a couple of things that we're working on now is a predictive analytics model that would inform departments prior even to putting a program out there. What does that budget look like based on admissions data, enrollment data, financial data, looking forward to say, okay, we implement this program, and you all had one this morning that we discussed, and what does that program, somebody asked the question about financial viability. What does that look like in kind of a template form, but also more of a predictive form? When's the payoff? What's the return on investment? What's the margin on that one? And what is the demand? And a lot of those things go together. And what is the societal need? So I think as we start drilling down into the unit levels, making it more meaningful for decision making. And that's where I think this becomes very powerful. But your point's very well taken. Until we have an understanding of the overall as well as how it might be implemented on the incremental basis and in the units, it will, at that point, take hold.
Thank you all very much. Just one quick comment. I don't want to waste everybody's time, but a true story is that in my own company, I'm hiring engineers, and I need a new programmer. And what I really need is someone with 10, 15 years experience. And so to find that type of talent, specialized talent in this area of the country is very difficult to find. So I go through headhunters, and I bring in people to interview them, and it's a very long and expensive process. And I narrowed it down to a couple of candidates, and I decided there was a job or a career fair here 2 weeks ago, and I was out of town, but I sent my programmers and here to Tech to interview computer science and computer engineering candidates. And when I got back in town, they said, well, we think we found 3 candidates with no experience that are better suited than the 15-year candidates that I was shopping for. And interviewed them, and this guy doesn't know it yet, but I'll make him an offer probably Friday or Monday. And but the thing is, and this is the real difference that comes through to me in interviewing engineering students from here, is that they clearly know more than just the body of knowledge that you're supposed to learn in a BS degree. It is the experience of capstone design projects, of other activities, of getting involved in things that is truly, I think, unique and in some ways better served. And all of that, I truly believe, comes from the passion and the culture of the faculty.
Yes.
And I want to applaud that and recognize it. It doesn't just happen, by nature. And if you had a faculty that only cared about handing over a body of knowledge, well, that can be done. That's not what we do, and that's not what we have. And so to me, that strategic plan needs to capitalize on that philosophy, as you have done, and carry it forward, because that will help our university succeed tremendously. So thank you for giving me some outstanding employees. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And I'm going to pay that guy a lot of money, too. So a lot cheap, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I want to thank Lisa and Tom, and certainly the entire strategic planning committee for all the work that they've done. It speaks for itself, I think. They've put some really great ideas on the table. And my job here for the next couple of minutes is to just stress to all of us, particularly the board, the urgency of acting on these ideas. And I hope I can do that successfully and reinforce those concepts. Johnny, you're, and Trudy as well, I mean, I'm reminded of the power of a good question. And Johnny, in particular, that question about what should the institution look like 10 years from now? If we implement this, it's a very insightful question, and it's one that we absolutely need to pay attention to. And I would put it this way. I think this strategic plan really successfully doubles down on what we all recognize as the real attributes and qualities of Tennessee Tech to begin with. And Tom, your comments about the quality of the students that are producing. I've said a number of times that we're in a very unique business, the only business I'm aware of where the customer and the product are the same thing. And so certainly we want to treat students with the level of customer service that we would all expect, but we also know that they're the product when they leave our institution. And we want to make sure that that value is represented in them and their careers. You know, and what I think this effectively does is it moves the goalpost. I'm going to steal a metaphor from Captain Wilmore's favorite sport. We're moving the goalposts here with this strategic plan. And where most institutions are interested in getting students successfully graduated, and we certainly want to do that. We want them to have a return on that initial educational investment. But this plan moves the goalposts into career and to try to ensure that every student that walks this campus has the absolute ultimate opportunity for a successful career where ultimately the payoff is included. So I'm going to walk through a couple of slides here. And I'm also reminded that for the about the 75th anniversary of Tennessee Tech, a couple of very notable former faculty members, Harvey Neufeld and Calvin Dickinson, published a book that we've all come to appreciate greatly over the years, and that's the Search for Identity. It's a history of Tennessee Technological University, the first 70 years, 1915 to 1985. And that title, in fact, I saw Calvin earlier this week, and he said that some of my predecessors in the President's office didn't appreciate that title too much, the Search for Identity. But I think the history points this out, that has been the journey for Tennessee Tech of searching for its identity. And that's not unusual in higher education. There's certainly many other institutions that go through that developmentally and appropriately. I think it's interesting that approximately 30 years later, I think we could probably say the same thing about Tennessee Tech, that we're still in search of that identity. I believe, it may be premature, but I believe that search has led us to this strategic plan, quite honestly. And I think that it's time to stop searching and start doing, to really put this into action, start building that Tennessee Tech of tomorrow, that students that are here now and the ones that will be coming in future years can expect, that they want to expect, that they want to participate in and have something to do with. Also believe that fundamentally there's two things that universities do well when they're in their A game, I guess you would say. that are of significant value, and that's to create and disseminate knowledge and to identify and develop talent. Okay, so I'm curious, how are we doing in those areas, in creating knowledge, disseminating knowledge, identifying and developing talent? So I'm not going to burden you with a lot of facts and figures, but I'll run through a few here real quick. In terms of impact on students, first-year retention rate, we've seen a lot of progress in that regard. Student persistence is up substantially over the last roughly 5 years. We're currently at 79%. Six-year graduation rate is now at 51%, and that continues to climb as well. We're seeing a lot of progress, particularly in the 3, 4, and 5-year graduation rates that should move that 6-year number up substantially in the next 3 or 4 years. As good as, and those numbers are relatively good. Those are among the highest in the state of Tennessee. But I would say that they're not near good enough. If we're having 1 out of 5 freshmen not return for their sophomore year, that's not satisfactory. If roughly half of our students that start as freshmen are not completing a degree in 6 years from this institution, we know that a lot of them transfer and finish somewhere else. But if roughly half of them are not completing their degree here, then that's not good enough. And so we continue to have some significant work to do. Cost, which has been talked about quite a bit here today already, we're certainly very sensitive to that. We know that we are still a very affordable, very reasonably priced institution, but we also know higher education is a costly endeavor nationwide. Our costs are not anywhere in the ballpark of certainly flagship campuses in other states and elite privates, but it's still a burden for students and families, particularly in this area. And so we want to be very sensitive to that. That's been going up approximately 2 to 5% a year annually over the last several years. Prior to that, it went up much more than that. We're seeing some stabilization in that number, but we want to see more, and we want to see those costs become much more predictable and much more affordable as time goes on. The ROI, we've talked about this before. We have a significant return on investment for students, about an 8% annual return on investment. That's a good place to be as an institution, and it speaks to the value that Tom spoke of earlier with those students that his company has interviewed. And so we want to make sure that that's always the case, that the value proposition for an education at Tennessee Tech is always strong, and that's been indicated by a number of rating services. And we're also rated very highly in terms of stimulating economic mobility. So students come in of a certain socioeconomic class, and they leave us in a position to move up that ladder, which is good. Student loan repayment is another metric that we track. You hear a lot about default rates for student loans. We're proud of the fact that ours is now actually the lowest in the state of Tennessee, below 5% for a 3-year cohort, and so that's a good place to be. But still, we want to make sure that stays that way. Academic programs and delivery is an area that's sort of a mixed bag. We have currently on our academic program inventory that Tennessee Higher Education Commission keeps track of, we have 79 academic programs. That's the second lowest among all public universities in the state of Tennessee. So from a stewardship perspective, you might say that, well, that's a good thing. You don't have excess academic programs to put money into to fund, and so you're relatively lean in that regard. From a standpoint of attracting future students, it can be a negative that we don't have a lot of additional programs that students can plug into. We know that a lot of students come as freshmen either not knowing what they want to ultimately major in or get a degree in, or certainly change their mind at some point along the way. So for students that come to Tennessee Tech, maybe they have in mind a certain degree path, but for whatever reason that changes, and then we don't have a program that suits their new needs, and so that can be a problem. So that's something that needs to be addressed. Off-campus academic delivery, this is really about off-campus sites. It's face-to-face instruction at off-campus, branch campus sites. I was hoping to capture some information about online delivery as well. That's not readily available at this time, but I think this kind of captures that as well. 5% is relatively low. Most of our peers in state, this particular number would be 10 to 15% for non-traditional off-campus academic delivery. I think the online component would probably be pretty similar. Now, talking about academic programs and delivery mechanisms in general, I think this statistic is really pretty powerful, and that's for a 10-year-old today. Okay, so somebody was born in 2008. It's anticipated that by the time they enter the workforce, so they would graduate here roughly in 2030, so about 12 years from now. 60% of the available jobs do not currently exist. Okay, so just to get that in your head a little bit. Okay, 60% of the jobs that students 12 years from now will be looking to fill don't currently even exist. So how do we design academic programs? How do we design delivery mechanisms in such a way that addresses that future need? We all know that it's not an overnight enterprise to stand up a new academic program. And so how do we meet that growing need with emerging areas in a way that is meaningful? That's our challenge.
Could I ask you one question
Sure, absolutely.
out there? Would the fact that we have the fewest number of academic programs make us more nimble to be able to address that quick change that's going to happen in the job market?
It should. It can. But it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to happen automatically. And I think that's where this strategic plan comes into place. And if you look at that strategic plan that those faculty have developed in consultation with a lot of individuals on campus, it really tries to get at that core. How do you infuse innovation and that rebirth of academic endeavor consistently within the culture of the institution?
I was just thinking it's easier to turn a fishing boat than it is a battleship.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that's I think a good analogy. It's a good way to look at it, is that you don't necessarily have all that baggage to change, but it also means that you actually do have to pay attention to it and create those new programs and be willing to adjust existing programs as you go along. In terms of research, I mean, this is clearly an area we've got to do better in. By the National Science Foundation data, the most recent data is 2016, we reported $11.5 million of research expenditures. Okay, so that's not grants awarded in that year. That's actual research expenditures in that particular year. $11.5 million. I'm not going to, I could compare us to a lot of institutions and give you a lot of data, but I'm just going to pull one out, and that's a university of similar size, similar disposition and background. 2.5 hours down the road, south of us, they reported in that particular year $97 million in research expenditures. Now, granted, they're in a different environment a little bit than we are, but roughly an 8-fold difference in research expenditures tells us we've got a lot of work to do in this regard. Similar size faculty, similar size student body, many of the same issues. So one of my all-time favorite quotes, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "A foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds." Put that into a modern context, Michael Crow, the president at Arizona State University, has recently said, "Any attempt to enhance the productivity of higher education with the current design will fail." Okay? It's pretty strong rhetoric, but I think the point, and if you follow what's going on at Arizona State, you can kind of see what he's getting at, is that the issues that we have to address in higher education today, the world is moving very, very fast. It's changing. The nature of workforce is changing. The nature of the way education is delivered is changing. The way we even, questions about how we even count educational attainment, whether you use semester credit hours, or however you want to say that. All of that is continuing to change, and we need to pay attention to that. So here's some essential actions that I think, again, are really embedded in the strategic plan. We have to continue to put students first, okay? We do that. We do that on this campus all the time. But we've got to do that in a more expansive way than ever before. We've got to make it even more relevant than ever before. And like I said before, we've got to move those goalposts from graduation to career that will really set us apart. And that means expanding the market, where we reach, where we go with our students. We need more companies recruiting here with a broader and more diverse geographic and topical reach with our students. We've got to increase the diversity. I appreciate the comment earlier about diversity of our students. We've got to increase the diversity of our student body, considering not only race and gender, but also considering geography and economic capability. We must change the old models of academic program development and delivery to be more responsive and more inclusive. In other words, we've got to up our clock speed. We've got to be able to move quicker and on a larger scale. We must aggressively develop new emerging academic programs and consider closing or discontinuing programs that are either poor quality, outdated, or of lesser value. And those are difficult conversations to have on a university campus, I can assure you. We have to put a high priority on the external communities that we serve. Second only to the students are those external communities. We must partner more aggressively than ever with outside interests to leverage resources and talents to produce the type of graduates needed and expected. We've got to substantially increase our competitive research efforts by conducting research in relevant areas of study for the direct social and economic well-being of the communities we serve. So it's got to be relevant. It's got to be meaningful. We must also fully ensure the absolute integrity of our research enterprise by rigorous process and review and transparent accountability for all personnel involved. We need to change our design from a public agency model of education, where a public agency would have fixed and rigid processes and resources that are generally relatively unresponsive, limited by availability of state funds that we all know is problematic in our world today. And we've got to change more aggressively to an enterprise model. A lot of this we already do, but I think the future is we've got to do more of it, where we find ways to add additional resources to the mix through partnerships and innovation and emerging markets. We also, as has already been pointed out by Tom Payne, Dean Payne, embrace technology and innovation like never before. He quoted the Nobel Prize winning economist William Baumol about any organization that doesn't embrace technology and innovation, the price is going to rise infinitely. We see that not only in higher education, we see it in healthcare and other places as well. And we've got to continue to demand quality. If it's not quality, we need to either fix it, change it, or stop doing it. So that's a tall order. I think the strategic plan puts us in a position to address all of these, actually, in a way that's both meaningful and very marketable to students. Students are the ultimate beneficiaries of what we're talking about here. And so I really applaud the work that's been done. But in order to get this done, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take a concerted effort, a very intentional effort on the part of all of us, from the board to the president to administrative leadership, faculty, staff, students, everybody, because you're talking about culture changes, you're talking about attitude changes throughout. Fortunately, we've got some even continuing to add new assets to that picture. Dr. Lori Bruce will be joining us April 16th as our new provost and vice president for academic affairs. I want to thank the members of the search committee that led us to Dr. Bruce. They put in a lot of time and effort. I know that Trustee Fleming was on that group. It was chaired by Dean Liz Mullins and Dean Paul Sims. Did an excellent job. Appreciate all their work. Lori will be joining us April 16th. We'll also be joined April 1st, so in a little over a week, by the new Vice President for Enrollment and Career Placement, Dr. Brandon Johnson, and he comes with a wonderful private school background that I think will really help move us in that goalpost setting from graduation to career. And of course, it goes without saying that this board is now only in its 13th month of operation. And as a group, you have come a long way. You've dealt with a lot of issues. You've learned a lot at this point. And the real work is really just now beginning. The impact of that effort is just now beginning. So we have a lot of work cut out for us. I'm very excited about the direction of this and look forward to seeing what the next 30 years will bring for Tennessee Tech, because I hope, I really believe that 30 years from now, those individuals writing that next book may look at this point in history and say, that's when Tennessee Tech discovered what its true identity was. So thank you for the opportunity to give this report, and I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you very much. I just want to make a comment, and that is that it does concern me, and it has for a very long time, about our research expenditures. And it even goes back further than before you were even president. When I came back to Cookeville and bought into my company and looking at this area, I didn't realize it when I was a student here. When I look at Cookeville and the surrounding area and how it's developed, the question in my mind was, how come this university has been here since 1915, and we do consider ourselves a major engineering university, and yet we have not developed technical industries around this community like we should have. And I don't, it's a criticism not of Tennessee Tech, but maybe of the community as a whole, and maybe of a missed opportunity as a school of engineering. I do think that, as I mentioned earlier, I tremendously applaud the university and the faculty for the quality of students and the emphasis on the quality of students. I would say, that in preparing, the fact that 10-year-olds right now, 60% of those jobs don't exist by the time that they graduate from college. Well, the fact is, my job didn't exist 20, 30 years ago either. But when you produce students that are engaged in a lot of different activities and instill in them an attitude towards learning and assertiveness, then that serves them well regardless of how the environment and technology changes. And I think even our student candidates already demonstrate that aspect, and I greatly appreciate that. But getting back to this research issue, I do think that it is critical to the university, for the graduate programs, for revenue for the university, to do more partnerships and seek more opportunity to do research and development, paid research and development. And without saying any more, it's pretty clear we need to make some improvements in how we do that. I think that there are certainly some issues there, and the university is working towards improving that, and I applaud those efforts. But make no mistake, every other huge engineering school that I'm aware, you look at the surrounding area, whether it's Auburn or Clemson or UT or Virginia Tech or Georgia Tech, all of them do much, much more R&D, paid research than we do. We need a better process. We need to be better at it, and that will benefit and generate revenue for faculty, more opportunities for students, and bring tremendous, growth and reputation to this university.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Tom, in that. And the way I look at it, certainly we have a wide range of disciplines on this campus, and many of them, such as engineering and the sciences, have tremendous opportunities in terms of sponsored research, and it's a great testament to their competitiveness and the impact of their work to be able to do that. Other disciplines are recognized in other ways, but similar. And I would put it this way, that the reputational value of the institution is ultimately driven by the scholarship that is produced, whether it's whether it's sponsored financially or not in some disciplines, but certainly in some of the key disciplines on this campus, the gold standard for impact is sponsored research. And so we need to do a better job at that, and hopefully we will.
And one other statement too. I mean, I do think that your flight plan and the current new strategic plan and building the infrastructure in the science building and working towards new engineering building, all of those are absolutely critical to achieving those goals and that growth. And so thank you for that vision and direction.
Sure. Appreciate it.
I think, oh, sorry.
And I did want to say too, I'm sorry, I apologize if I focus sometimes too much on engineering. It's just what I know and
Sure.
where I'm from. But we cannot be such a narrowly focused school either. I mean, and I tremendously appreciate and value the other colleges that we have, and the College of Business and the School of Nursing and Education. We can't be a one-minded university.
Yeah, well, we heard this morning from the Tech Chorale. They sang for us in the rotunda. They're going to be performing in Carnegie Hall in a little over a month. That speaks to that's a testament to the quality of the scholarly components here on campus as well, in a different way, but in that discipline, certainly a significant way, similar to a major NSF grant maybe in another discipline. But
I have an important thank you that we forgot. One of the things that I learned during the Provost Search Committee is that, I'm going to say, the most beloved person on campus is Dr. Mark Stevens. And he's taken us through some real times when we didn't have a provost, and he stepped in, and he's done what we needed to do, and he is absolutely beloved, and we really cannot thank him enough for that. So just wanted to add that.
Melissa?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say, with the research, in order to be able to do that, you've heard me say it a gazillion times, you have to have the tenured faculty on board that have that capability, and to recruit and hire the best. They're not going to come for lecturer or instructor positions. And I think that the infrastructure is infinitely better than it was, but I think putting the resources in those faculty's hands for faculty developed and faculty backed pursuits is that's where you're going to see your return on investment.
Thank you. Very well said. Anything else?
Thank you.
Speaking from personal experience, I can say that for the College of Business, there is a great deal in potential research, and whenever the concept is brought up, there are many professors that are on board with help assisting students with this research. I think if we were to advertise that as an option more widely available and show that, yes, this is available to business students, it's not just a STEM field sort of thing, that would help immensely.
Absolutely.
Great. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is agenda item number 5, the appointment of a board member for policy 780 purposes. And really the purpose of this is that we currently have an internal research misconduct inquiry in progress. And on January the 27th, a faculty member brought forth an allegation to President Oldham. And on Monday, January the 29th, he started that process. One, or I guess 2 points about it really is that that process, 780, is a confidential, and it's kind of a long process. The reason for the confidentiality is to protect the integrity and opportunity for all of those involved. And that process, it is rather lengthy. There's up to a 60-day inquiry process, and after that inquiry, there is a 30-day decision process. And at that decision point, normally the policy states that the president would make the decision to continue that onto an investigation. And in the investigation phase, there is actually a separate committee that would be formed to do that investigation, and that can last up to 120 days. And after that 120-day process, then there is a decision to be made whether or not or how that misconduct may or may not be handled. So we do have a little bit of a problem, because in this particular misconduct inquiry, the president has recused himself from that process. And therefore, the policy does not provide another explanation of how to proceed. So being chairman of the board, we have to take that up as the board and solve that problem. And in talking to Dr. Oldham about it, and also talking to Dr. Carpenter about it, you cannot have the full board serve that role, because we have a sunshine law and we have an open meeting law, and therefore that completely goes against the confidentiality requirement of the misconduct inquiry. You can't even assert it to the executive committee, because also there is the sunshine law and an open meeting law. So it needs to be a single individual person. And so I am proposing and recommending that this board select someone from the board to serve as in the president's role in that inquiry investigation. And now I guess you could say, well, maybe the chair of the board should do it. And I certainly considered that. I offered to do it. My problem is that I do have another life, and my professional life is quite time consuming, and I have too much travel to even consider it at this point. So I have asked the vice chair, Trudy Harper, if she would serve in that capacity. Now, I've only asked her if she was willing to serve. It's certainly not a direction from the board. But at this time, I would entertain a motion from the board to allow Trudy Harper as vice chair to serve in the role of the president only for the purposes of this policy 780, which is a research misconduct.
I so move.
So we have a motion and we have a second.
Second.
So Johnny made the motion, Teresa made the second. Any other questions, concerns, or comments about it? Trudy, I would like you to comment, since
My comments are just going to be two, and they're very simple. One is, just to be clear, it will only be for this particular inquiry and potentially subsequent investigation. There may be a further 780 down the road, and I just want us to be clear that this is one of those, and I'm just stepping
absolutely
into that
should be understood only for this particular misconduct allegation, because this is the only one that the president has recused himself
And it
from.
may happen again at some point, but right now we're only talking about one. And then the only other comment I'd make is I'm going to recuse myself from the vote. So that rather than abstaining, I just want to recuse myself on the front end, because I think that makes the most sense. So.
That's fine. And another just comment from my point of view in trying to figure out how to approach this is that I live here, and the local community and discussion about it, I think it's too much anyway. I mean, this should be an internal confidential inquiry to protect all the parties involved, and it really hasn't been on a community level. And so to me, another advantage of having Trudy do it is that while she does come and teach class here, she's not in Putnam County every day. And I think that's an advantage. Any other comments or questions?
I think it's a great choice, and I think the fact that she doesn't live here is irrelevant, but I think she's well-respected and level-headed. Now, the problem is going to be you're going to need to be here more, and you can stay at my house.
So, Johnny?
I'm really glad she's willing to do it, and I wonder if it'd be appropriate while she is looking at 780 that she begins the notion of improving the process so that we could cut the time it takes to get through this and improve that process as we go forward, if nothing more than taking some notes.
I think that's a terrific observation, and I don't think I'll be speaking out of turn to ask Dr. Ho as well. She's, I believe, the Research Integrity Officer. Is that correct?
Yes, she is.
And I would think that Dr. Ho would have even better ideas on this than me, Johnny, but I would certainly be happy to do that. And I will, just as long as I've got the microphone open, I'll say that these timelines that are given are maximums. We don't they're not even maximums. You can actually extend that time. But I think the policy says in each case no longer than. So hopefully we will be able to accelerate this some. But I say that I'm completely unencumbered by the facts.
I understand.
And so, you know, I don't know where this will take us, but I think it's a very good observation, Johnny.
Well, it's something we ought to be doing at every step we take at Tennessee Tech. Is
Great
look
idea.
at everything we're
Great
doing
idea.
and be innovative and creative and improving as we go forward. And we are
Well said.
soaring toward excellence, right?
And
I just have, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I just have one concern is Trudy's involvement in the College of of Engineering already. I just, I don't know. Were there any other people approached about taking this on? Did it need to come from the executive
I did
committee?
not. I did discuss it with Dr. Oldham and with Kay, and it was discussed about my role, and I decided it wasn't best for me to do it, and so I simply went to the vice chair. That was it. I don't know. Do you have any comment on?
I don't have any comment other than you're right. I'm involved with the College of Engineering. I will be honest, I don't know any of the individuals involved in this, and I only know those people from what I've read in the paper, right? I only know those names. So I don't know any of these individuals that were involved in this research. I don't know anyone at the company that was sponsoring the research. But I am at the university once a week in the College of Engineering. I think it's a plus and a minus. I have some involvement with the College of Engineering. I also have some theoretically, historically anyway, expertise in engineering that maybe will bubble back up to the surface, we hope. But I respect your comments, Melissa. I think those are good ones and good considerations.
I thought it would be helpful to have an engineer involved since it's about engineering, and I don't think it'll be a problem from my perspective, and I'd like to keep the nominee out there.
Okay. Miller? I'm sorry?
Question.
Okay. Any other comments? We will have a roll call vote. Okay.
Fleming? Fleming votes aye. Geist?
No.
Geist votes nay. Oakley?
Aye.
Votes aye.
I'm sorry.
Wait, I withdraw that. I abstain.
Thank you.
Sigardi?
Aye.
Van Hooser?
Aye.
Wilmore?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Have two present, non-voting, one.
Stites.
Oh, I'm sorry, Stites.
Aye.
Sorry, my apologies.
I want to, while you're counting the votes, just because of my actions when Mr. Oakley first voted, I certainly did not mean to coerce you into changing your vote in any manner. But
You really didn't.
okay, I'm sure I didn't.
Yeah.
But I think that is a better choice given the situation. Fair enough?
Too.
Thank you, sir.
6 ayes, 2 present, non-voting, 1 nay.
6 ayes, 2 present, 1
One nay.
nay.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay. Agenda item number 6. Sorry?
The president just said congratulations, and he giggled real loud. I don't know what that meant, but I'm just teasing. No, he did say congratulations.
Well, thank you, Trudy. Good luck. So, one comment that I should have made earlier is that it is important to understand that this role is really independent of the inquiry committee, and you don't really participate on that until you receive their result and finding. Is that correct, as we understand the policy?
It's as I understand it as well, and I think Dr. Ho and I will probably have some more conversations about exactly what she needs from me, and I'll be willing to do whatever I need to do. But I would encourage all of the board members, if you haven't, to read Policy 780 and just be sure that you're familiar, less with the procedure and more with the materiality of it, because it does address things like, you know, academic misconduct does not include honest error or differences in opinion, things like that that are very fundamental, and I think we should all keep in mind. So to Johnny's point earlier, I will be mindful of this, but I also would ask you all to be familiar with it as well.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, what does that say, academic misconduct? I'm sorry, misconduct in research, not academic misconduct. Thank you.
Very good.
I think that's,
very good point.
I think those are two very different things, and you can tell I don't live in this universe every day. Thank you, Melissa.
Okay, we are ready for agenda item number 6, the Executive Committee report and recommendations. First up, A, is the report on approval of appointments from the Executive Committee. There's really, I think, there's no action required here. I think, Dr. Oldham, you already mentioned the recent hires. If you want to just very briefly mention it again.
Sure. Dr. Lori Bruce, currently serving as Associate Vice President and Dean of the Graduate School at Mississippi State University, will be joining us on April 16th as the new Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. Also, Dr. Brandon Johnson, currently serving as Vice President for Enrollment at Avila University in Kansas City, Missouri, will be joining us on April 1st as the new Vice President for Enrollment and Career Placement. So we're excited about both these individuals. Really want to thank the search committees that worked very diligently to find them, recruit them, and sell them on this opportunity. So thanks to everybody.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're ready for agenda item number, I guess it's 6B, and this is the template for the President's contract. Just to back up just a little bit and give a history on this, back in our August 17th meeting, the full board voted to direct the Executive Committee to go ahead and develop a proposed contract. At that point, it certainly didn't mean that the board would accept the contract, but there was a vote at that meeting to at least draft one and see how it looked. So the Executive Committee did report progress at the December 11th meeting, but there was no action taken. And then moving ahead, the Executive Committee finally did meet on February the 15th. And at that time, we did have a draft contract template. And it was voted on to present that template to the full board. To give you just a little bit of background on that, the way it started, I guess the way it was developed was originally I had discussions with our legal counsel / secretary, and my direction in very general terms, it was certainly more specific at the time, was to have a contract that was primarily just focused on exit strategy. There are no, I would say, performance goals in there, as that is something that we do on an annual basis in the President's review. But, you know, the question is, why do a contract in the first place? Well, as I've said several times before, generally for an employment contract, I'm not for that type of thing. However, in this role and in this academic environment, I feel like it's quite a good idea for several reasons. Number one, it certainly brings stability both to the board and to the university and to the president. As it has been explained to us many times in the Focus Act, we have one employee, and it's this person right here. And so this contract helps to assert our authority of that employee and our responsibility for that president. And it also helps define, you know, what happens in case that either of us become unhappy. You know, my general guide to a business contract is it's only there for the purpose of when you're not happy, okay? But it's important to have. And so I did direct Kay in that direction. She did some research. She did, I think, look at some other contracts. She provided me with a draft first. I did make some edits, some changes, and then after Kay and I were happy, then she sent it on to the other executive board members and discussed with them individually. And that's basically how we have the template that we have now. And in February the 15th, we did meet and we approved that template. So at this point, we have a two-step process. No, well, I guess one question is, it has been suggested that maybe this is not the time for it or should be delayed. However, you know, the board, the full board, did direct this to be developed by the executive committee. The executive committee did vote on February the 15th to send it to the full board. And if I change that now, I would not be following the directions of the executive or the full board from previous meetings. And so it is here, you know, and we are doing it. So,
Since I made that comment, could I just explain very briefly? My concern was not about the contract. The contract simply protects the university. There is no evaluative component in there. It's a smart thing to do. But I think that I've heard from some faculty that there was concern they'd like to see it. And I believe they only got it in email 2 days ago. And so my concern was just out of respect for the faculty that wanted to see it, out of lack of urgency for it, could we discuss it and vote for it in 2 months? And so that is not a huge, big, fat deal. I'm just trying to respect what I've heard from some faculty, so that's all I wanted to say.
You know, I understand that, that point. However, given the fact that it was first brought up on August the 17th, and given the fact that on February the 15th, it was voted on by the executive committee, and it was available to our faculty member. I know you were out of the country February the 15th, I think. Were you, Cuba? And then also the faculty senate president had access to it on February the 15th. So, I mean, to be truthful about it, I don't know that I can say that the faculty has not had the opportunity until 2 days ago. That I don't understand.
Difference in access, like we get access to the board books, and usually I'm busily spending the last 3 days before the board meeting going over it. So I think it's just the difference in access and getting it. So I just want us to be respectful that that might be the opinion of some. If that's not the opinion of the board, I'm fine with that. But I'm just trying to relay the concerns of a group of people I respect very much, which is our faculty. That's it.
So we had access to this in the board books?
Yes, it was published on, prior to the February 15th, I don't remember the exact date, but all board members have access to that, and Dr. Kilman also has access to the Diligent books.
It's, you know, it's not a lengthy contract. I'm not inclined to delay action, I guess, when there was opportunity. So, sorry. Trudy?
May I make a motion?
Yes.
Upon the executive committee's recommendation, I move the board approve the template president's contract as presented.
Second.
We have a motion made, we have a second. You know, one thing about it, just to remind, it is a two-step process. Approving this as a template does not mean that it goes directly to the president. The second vote will be whether or not to offer it to the president.
That's interesting, because I didn't realize that. So that gives the faculty an opportunity to look at it and comment if they want to comment. But what I'm hoping is that, and actually this has happened, when a faculty member looked at it and said, there's really nothing to this. That is absolutely correct. There is nothing to it except protection for the university. But I think our faculty need to feel comfortable with that. And since it's such an easy thing to do, but you've just identified a process that will allow them to be.
But, you know, I said it's a two-step process. The intention was to take both steps today.
Okay.
That's still the intention.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a comment about it. For me, it's important to do this right now because the president is our sole employee. And I personally, and I believe this board should take the stance that we want everybody to understand that we are supportive of this president. We've got his back, and as long as he does what we entrust him to do, he's going to continue to have that support. If he doesn't, then I'll be the first one to make the motion to boot him out. But I think it's important that we send the message that this president is our choice, and we want to keep him, and we don't want him in limbo land that maybe he might get a better offer somewhere else. He still could, but at least he knows he's got this offer.
But if he does get an offer somewhere else, now we have terms in a contract that he can't leave us tomorrow. I mean, that's another reason for having the contract, is it controls the exit strategy and protects both sides.
And just to remind everyone, we're talking about only the template right now, and Johnny,
That's
I think,
correct.
is talking about offering that template to Phil Oldham. But,
I am.
and that's entirely appropriate, but I think just to remind everybody, we're really talking about the however many pages of the contract it is, but we're talking about those four corners of a contract right now.
That's correct.
And I say that because some of us worked really hard to get to that. I don't want that bucket of sweat to be thrown out without some consideration, I guess.
Ms. Melissa?
Well, I have several questions. One, there's a point in the contract that says that the president is without tenure. And I just have a question about that, because the president is a tenured full professor at Tennessee Tech. Is that correct?
You want to address?
The template contract contemplates that a candidate would come in possibly with a tenured position. That's, of course, subject to the vote of the college or the department. There is one situation in which, and that's part of an exit strategy, that if there is tenure and for cause, the board may require the president to exit without, and also to surrender the tenure position.
But
It would clarify the
I'm sorry.
question.
well, I think in the it will just need to be changed, because I think one thing that we are concerned, or my question is, I still do not understand why we are pursuing a contract with the president. That I've heard, you know, what we've said, but I am not so sure that this protects the university. I think, you know, when you look at some of the stipulations, that if he's reassigned, that he gets that base salary for the duration. My other question is, why 5 years? Why not make it 3 years? And so then if some of these contingencies do happen, Tennessee Tech is not on the financial hook for 4 years. Instead, we're on the hook for fewer years.
I would suggest, if that is, you know, directed more towards, I mean, two questions. One is the template. Second one is, how do you offer it to the president? Let's take the first one, and then if there should be changes to offer it to the president, that can be.
I think the template, doesn't the template have the?
It does.
The template says 5 years, and the template, if I'm reading correctly, says in one paragraph, I guess it's, I don't know, I think it's Article 2, paragraph C, the president agrees that his service as president is without tenure and at the will and pleasure of the board, and et cetera, et cetera. That says he's without tenure. But then the next one says, concurrently with his appointment as president, president will hold a tenured faculty appointment. So it's a little bit confusing, I think, but I think the president's role is not tenured, but his faculty role is. Am I reading that correct?
That's the way it was intended.
That's how I understand it.
Okay.
And again, as long as I'm talking, if I can just make one more comment and then I'll shut up. I spent a lot of time researching when we spent some time putting together the president's review process. I spent a lot of time researching presidential contracts because I'm, much like Tom, I have never been a fan of employment contracts. But I got through this process and decided that it really is smart to do. And for instance, the AGB, I don't know who the AGB is, the Association of Governing Boards, is that?
Yes.
don't tell them I didn't know who they were. But anyway, that's our group that advises university boards. From a 2015 paper, they make the statement, AGB has long recommended that terms of presidential employment be incorporated into a formal written agreement. That doesn't say what should be in it. They have lots and lots of other stuff about that. But I think that very statement is that they believe it's best practice. And so I think when we're trying to pursue best practices, I think we need to adopt a contract for a president. Again, I'm not talking about this president yet, but I think in general we need to have an offer to a president. And then I believe the provost has been offered a contract, is that right? Or some sort of terms anyway of her employment will be similar, right?
Well, there's some similar language, I think, in terms of if she ever ceased to be the provost.
Right. So
correct?
there's some kind of termination provisions that are similar to what we would have in this contract.
Well, when I first heard about the contract, the way that it was presented was that there does need to be an exit strategy, that in the past, if an administrator went back to faculty, then they were, they kept their administrative salaries, which were not in line. And so, to me, the thought is, well, let's change that policy. Let's not, take this much larger step of offering a contract, which, yes, does have an exit strategy in terms of if the president goes back to faculty. I think that the chances of a sitting president to leave and go back to faculty is probably very slim. So really what we are looking at is contingencies for these other possibilities where tech ends up paying a president possibly $1.something million when they leave. And that is what I am trying to avoid.
Well, one important point is if you're terminating a president for cause, there is no salary.
Yeah, I
There
know.
is, and,
Right.
and you have to, and in that contract, there are lists of what that cause can be.
Right.
And one other point about it too, unlike, I guess, just because it has come up today, unlike this research misconduct policy 780, where you have all of these lengthy time periods and processes to go through, I assure you, we did not limit our ability to make decisions about this president with a lengthy policy like that. This contract ensures that the board does have the right and the authority, and he is and if he signs it, we don't know if he would, but if he agrees to it, then he has agreed to those terms up front. And to me, that is very important when you get to a position where either party is not happy. And in my terms, that's why I want to pursue it.
Question.
Okay. Mr. Oakley?
Yeah, Melissa, really, and I respect your opinion, but that's just, why keep delaying things? It's here, time to vote on it, and you got all these protections. I can't follow your reasoning.
Well, I think it's important to state and to be on record that this is a big step. This is something that is very new, and that there are concerns. I have concerns, and I feel like I need to state those with this contract.
And that's fair. Absolutely. Absolutely fair. I keep hesitating to quote this number, but I don't know if it was, and Trudy, help me, if it was AGB or it might have been the Huron group, they were saying like 80% now have contracts.
The most recent thing I could find, Tom, was from 2017. Doctorate granting universities with contracts with their president have 82.5% of them have contracts of 3 or more years.
So this is
and more than 50% have 5 years. So those are just a couple of data points, and that's a very specific doctorate granting universities, because there's other things, but that's who we are.
So anyway, I think unless somebody strongly feels the need to comment, I'm going to call the question on voting just on the template. And
This, because that will, my vote's dependent on, are we doing two things at once, or are we voting on the template, and
We're-
then we'll come back and
we will vote on the template, and then I will ask for a motion to offer it to the president.
I have to clarify too, is this template 4 or 5 years? Because I think that is in.
This template is for 5 years. And it is only a template. When we bring it up for a motion to offer it to the president, there's still opportunity for it to be amended. It is only a template.
It'll be in the same meeting, so the amendments that weren't acceptable now will presumably not be acceptable in 3 minutes. Is that correct? I would assume that's the case.
That's correct.
We're asking, the executive committee is asking this board to accept the draft template that we presented. Once the board has it, if you want to change it to offer it to the president, you can do that. But as a board.
I'm going to call it to a vote in 3 minutes or so, roughly. In other words, you're going directly to a vote. We've raised some concerns, but which were not considered serious now, so they won't be considered serious in 3 minutes, correct?
I don't know how you can say board members didn't consider your comments. I did.
Well, okay, you considered them. Thank you.
If I don't agree, that doesn't mean I didn't consider it. So, all right, so we have a motion on the table that the full board vote on the contract template as it's presented from the executive committee. And we have a second. Kay, please give a roll call vote.
Fleming,
This is absolutely not me voting confidence or no confidence for the president in whom I have confidence. My vote in respect for the faculty is no.
Geist,
No.
Harper,
Yes.
Oakley,
Yes.
Sigourney,
Aye.
Stites,
Yes.
Van Hooser,
Aye.
Wilmore,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
7 ayes, 2 noes.
7 ayes and 2 noes, the motion carries. So at this point, we have already, we've passed the template. The board has accepted the template. So the second question now, as we said it was going to be, is do we offer it to the president? And I think I've already stated my opinions, but I would add a little bit more to it. You know, if we were hiring a new president just out of the box and we had a few days or whatever the process would be to do a search and do a full president, certainly we would have some time to evaluate that president. And it's been said to me, well, you know, you have an issue at hand where some faculty are concerned about misconduct investigation or whatever the case may be. In my mind, I've been evaluating this president for 5.5 years. And through many changes, through many things throughout this university, and all I see are very, very positive changes. And I feel I'm blessed to make that decision based on that 5.5 years of evaluation rather than, you know, a shortened search review process. Secondly, while I do understand and I greatly appreciate there are concerns about this misconduct allegation, you know, I've spent many hours with this president discussing that with him, and I personally find you know, no cause or reason that would make me second guess that decision to move forward with the contract. I guess what I'm saying is I do not let one incident define my opinion of the kind of leader he is and what he has done for this university. And for those reasons, I am asking the board for a motion to offer this president a contract. Now, if you wish to shorten the time frame for the reasons you mentioned, Melissa, that's up to the board. You know, you can form your motion however you want it to be, because we have to speak and vote as a board. So, and I, you know, my opinion on that is I really do appreciate your comment. I think that's fair. Yes, we wrote the template as if it were a 5-year template for a president that you were just hiring new, but he has been here 5.5 years. And if it reduces the financial liability to shorten it to 3, that's up to the board. But I do feel very strongly, my personal opinion and my vote is that I would like to see this contract go forward as a vote of confidence for the president and as stability and protection of both sides. So.
Do we make a motion and then discuss, or can
We
we
should-
just go ahead and discuss?
I'd like to
What-
make a motion if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the rules, so.
That would be
definitely want-
You can make a
parliamentary
motion, and if you want to
correct.
amend it, or however you want to do it.
I'd
Go
like to,
ahead.
I'd like to make the motion that we offer the template contract to President Phil Oldham, and I say that with great respect and appreciation for the opportunity.
So the template as it stands. Do we have a second?
Yes, with a comment. I think Phil Odom is doing a really good job. I don't have the educational qualifications that some of you have here. I have very few. But I've observed him. He's a straight up, all right kind of guy. I like him. I think he's well intended, and I just can't imagine that we wouldn't want to do this. 5 years he's been here, and we're not happy. It just makes no sense to me.
Anybody is
Barbara,
saying
dear,
that.
I love you. You're a sweetheart, a love, and a delight. But there's no point in dragging this out. He's been here.
Is that a second?
I haven't found one thing that I don't like about him.
But
He did
that's
say-
not why either one of us had the comments we had. It has nothing to do, that's why I tried to separate it from what Johnny said. So please don't interpret it that way. Because that is not, at least, I won't put words in Melissa, that is not what I'm saying. I simply said what I said because I know, out of respect for the faculty who wanted to see it. It's very simple. It just became very complicated.
I do need to say a few things. Being on campus it's a very different experience than what I hear from the board. If we just look at the past few years, we had a $1.9 million permanent budget cut to our operational budgets. We followed that with a $3.2 million cut. We have learned, the budget committee on campus, that there might be another $900,000. So it's year after year after year of cuts to our operational budgets. I am concerned about university advancement. We have lost some to the reduction in force. We have lost some that have recently left. So now we have 2 advancement officers. We've had an online and digital person on campus for a year that we still are not sure. I mean, we're still at 5%. There are issues on this campus that I just don't think we can sweep under the rug with well-intentioned and a good person. I don't doubt that, but it's very frustrating to hear again and again the vision, and I was jealous in some of the provost interviews when they were talking about vision, because I wanted in on the vision, because I don't think I'm in on the vision. And I think that is across campus. So I have to say that. As much as I'm hearing how wonderful everything is, I think it's important for this board to hear that we have issues.
I want to say thank you, because maybe we often look at things with rose-colored glasses. But the fact is, I still don't make this decision or have this opinion thinking that everything is perfect. I am not, I'm not happy and satisfied with a lot of things. Even in this misconduct allegation, there are certainly ways that I wish it had been handled differently. you know, but because of the confidentiality, I'm certainly not going to go into that.
Right.
But having said that, you know, recognizing all those points, weighing the negative and the things that frustrate me a lot on this campus, I am still all in for this president. And I do believe that he, in my concerns, and I don't know, you could call them accusations, I have always been, I guess, I don't know, satisfied is the word, but I've been, when I have gone to him directly, he's been transparent and honestly concerned and trying to correct the problems as best he can. Now, we may have 1,000 different opinions of how to correct those problems or make those changes, and maybe they're not changing fast enough for some people, but overall, I'm still all in, and that's why I'm proposing we move forward.
I just think it was important that, again, that
it should be voiced. You're exactly right.
I agree. And I think the board should also understand that when we sit at these meetings and we go all around, you know, talking about how great this leadership is and how wonderful and how I think it frankly, it makes the board look a little disconnected.
Just one thing, and I don't have to do this, but you know, preparing for these meetings, I always sit down with Dr. Oldham and Kay and go over the agenda. And when the president was telling me about his president's report, and I'm going to ask you, what advice did I give you, Dr. Oldham?
You said to not pull any punches, basically. Don't just tell the good stuff.
I told him, I said, you know, the problem is you're always only telling the positive things, and we need to be more exposed to the negative things and to address them. And you know, having said that, Melissa, I do appreciate and applaud your efforts from the faculty in representing them and expressing their concerns. And I know Christy Kilman's not here, she's out of town, but I think she's doing an outstanding job. And I do think that this board needs to listen to and engage more with the Faculty Senate. We have to do that. It's not just about the students, and it's not just about the board. The only way to get where we want to get is through the faculty, and I know that and recognize that. And I feel like you, like my own employees, I want our employees to be the best paid people in the area for what they do and recognize what they do. I mean, I see it through the students that I hire. So we got to do a better job, no question.
So with all that being said, can we, I would like to make an amendment that we offer this contract as a 3-year contract.
Okay. Mrs. Geist has proposed an amendment to the original motion. Ms. Harper, do you want to amend your motion?
I don't want to accept that. Now, I know we can vote on that, I believe, parliamentarily, right, Kay?
Yes.
So I think she has to move to amend my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion by Dr. Geist to amend the template from 5 years to 3 years for the purpose of offering it to Dr. Oldham. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do we have a second?
No, I move that motion be tabled.
Well, we have to, we've got a motion, we need a second to go forward.
I've got a question.
Can we have?
Can I have a question about the motion?
Yes, go ahead.
Go from 5 to 3, and the purpose you want to go from 5 to 3 is to save the university potential expense if something were to happen. Is that right? That's the reason?
That is correct.
Do we have a second?
Let me ask you a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay. My first concern is that we've gotten the contract and the performance evaluation commingled. And
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Absolutely not.
If you don't think so, I'll second that amendment. Because I don't want this to be seen as a reflection on the president, but I think that's a smart move.
I don't disagree.
Point of order for the parliamentarian. I made a motion to table. Doesn't that take precedence under Robert's Rules of Order?
Yes, it would under Robert's rules, but smaller boards under 12, generally under Robert's rules, are not necessarily bound by the Robert's Rules of Order and have an informal, so I can.
I think, you know, my point in not allowing it was that we're getting too many layers of amendments. We have an amendment to reduce it from 5 years to 3 years. We have a second. If it fails, we still have the original question of whether or not to vote on it for 5 years.
All right,
So the tabling, I think, is muted.
all right, I withdraw the motion. It's worked in the legislature for many years, but maybe this is not the best forum. I withdraw the question.
Hopefully we're more efficient.
And call for the question.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any other comment on whether you want it to be 5 years or 3 years?
Let's just be very clear. All we're voting on at this point is whether to change my motion from 5 to 3. We're not voting on whether or not to make the contract.
That's exactly correct.
Just to change the motion from 5 to 3.
Question. I want to vote to keep the contract as it is, so I vote no.
That's exactly what you would do.
Thank you.
So all in favor? Barry?
I'm sorry, just to make sure, I'm easily confused. So what would cause the university to lose funds if we had a 5 versus a 3-year contract? I mean,
This is the issue. I'll try to, now there are several situations.
I'm trying to understand how to vote.
There's several situations in the contract. Let me find, let's say the board decided, we get unhappy, and we decide to reassign the president with no cause, and the president moves into another position. Okay, so he's no longer the president. He goes to be a tenured faculty somewhere in that case. Well, the way the contract reads is that he would receive his full salary for the remaining term of the agreement because we didn't give him a reason. We just said, we don't like you being president anymore. Now you got to go be a faculty member. So it's kind of, that's our legal liability.
So
Then
if
when
he
he goes to be a faculty member, after the term of the agreement, then his salary automatically reduces to the average of the top 10 highest paid faculty members in the university. So it's not the highest paid. So if you go from 5 years to 3 years, then it shortens his current president's salary from 5 years to 3 years, should we decide we don't like him tomorrow.
That's how I understood it. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you for clarifying.
Did that explain it enough? Okay, so just to clarify, we have a motion from Dr. Geist and seconded by Dr. Fleming to amend the template from 5 years to 3 years. Regardless of how that passes, then the following...
We're not amending the template. We would be amending the offer.
Yeah, the offer to the president.
And we're amending the motion that would make the offer to the president.
So if this motion carries, then we'll offer to the president a 3-year.
No, if this motion carries, then we will have a motion to offer the president
Yes.
a 3-year contract. Sorry
Yes.
to back you up, but
That's
right
all- that's the
now,
only
all
thing
we're
we're voting
voting
on
on
right
is
now,
whether
5
or
to
not we
3.
go from 5 to 3 in our motion as to whether or not the template is now in place at 5, but we can offer it to the president at, does that make sense? Okay.
Okay.
This deal to death, that's just up or down it now. We've heard
I'm
all
gonna call
the
a question.
argument and talks
So-
about it. Nobody's going to change their vote.
I'm trying to call a question. So we're going to have a roll call vote K.
Fleming?
I think that means 3 years in the template.
Not in the template. The template's 5.
The template stays 5, but
What are you voting?
we're
Yeah, I'm voting what
No,
she's
no,
voting.
please.
We are moving, the motion is.
You
to-
seconded the motion.
I'm for it. I just don't know how to vote. I mean,
The-
I'm voting for the 3 years.
That's why they have a
Okay.
You will be voting to move it to 3 years, and then that offer will be voted upon afterwards, whether or not it's presented.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Continue.
For the record, Fleming? Geist?
Aye.
Harper?
No.
Oakley?
No.
Sigardi?
No.
Stites?
No.
Van Hooser,
Aye.
Wilmore,
No.
Jones.
Aye.
Okay. We have 4 votes for ayes and 5 nays. Motion failed.
So the motion fails. So the template now, if we offer it to the president, will be offered for 5 years. Do I have a motion to offer the template at 5 years? I'm sorry, we have it.
In a second, we have a second as well.
So, we are voting to offer the president a 5-year contract. Okay?
Fleming,
I'm gonna vote aye on that, because that was where I would have voted before we went all through this convoluted thing.
If we'd only made it simple.
Geist,
No.
Harper,
Aye.
Oakley,
Aye.
Sigardi,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Van Hooser,
Aye.
Wilmore,
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Have 8 ayes, 1 nay.
8 ayes, 1 no, the motion carries. And I will direct Dr. Carpenter to, the template has to have the president's name, the, I guess, chemistry department. There are some fill-ins that have to be done. And at that point, we will draft it and offer it to the president. Yes.
And I'll just, Mr. Chairman, I'll just point out, Dr. Oldham is under no obligation to sign the contract.
No.
Just because we offer it to him. So this is just our offering him the contract.
Somebody had brought up in Faculty Senate, and I thought it was a great question. If he refuses to sign the contract, then does that mean that he is, like, terminating his position? Do you know what I mean? Because, I mean, I thought it was actually a kind of a good question, because if we're offering him a contract and he refuses the contract, what does that
I
mean?
think that we voted to offer him a contract. It doesn't mean that we demanded he sign it.
So he could refuse,
so
or
I
he could
think
not
that-
sign
Yeah,
it.
that was really my point, Dr. Geist, was I think it's important for us to remember we're one side of this negotiation.
Yeah.
I think he had an opportunity, Dr. Oldham had an opportunity to review the contract before we got it to this point, but he may have had a change of heart on some or all the provisions of it as well. So I think we're actually starting another negotiation potentially, but it may be that he just
Could be.
accepts it as it is.
I mean, if he doesn't, or if he comes back, then he'll bring that to me, and I'll probably bring it to the executive committee, and we'll go from there. That's how negotiation works. So, wow, are we done yet? So, thank you all. Okay, we are ready for agenda item number 8. This is the Academic and Student Affairs Committee report and recommendation. Barbara? We did it in committee.
Mr. Chairman, can I just stop for a minute
Yes,
and say, while
please.
she's gathering her materials, and say, we just went through some challenging debate there, right? We needed our debate team here to help us. I think that was healthy debate, and I'm really glad we had it. And could not be more delighted with where we ended up with our vote, and I just needed to say that. And I thank those of you who challenged it for all the reasons you challenged it. I have other reasons I won't go into that I think we did the right thing. But anyway, I thank all of you, because we did work really hard on the template with the idea we were going to offer it to this president. So thank you all.
Thank you.
I just want to let people know, too, that I'm checking my phone because I have students who are testing, and so I'm just checking in with the proctor so I just thought about that. I don't want people to think that I'm not engaged. I'm engaged.
And maybe it's not necessary, but if you had gotten up and left, I just want you to know, I would have rearranged the agenda until you were back.
Thank you.
Because it's not, I would not have gone through that without your presence.
Thank you.
Sorry. Agenda item number 8, Barbara, you're up. Microphone.
In our committee, I'm brain dead at this point, some would say I'm brain dead anyway. But we had 3 items, all good. And the first was approval of a letter of notification for a new master's degree in engineering and, or it's engineering management, business and engineering. Something that the faculty's been really supportive of, and it's gone through all the faculty clearances. And so, do we need to have Mark go over that again for the, because this is on the full agenda, I don't know, or do we just ask for questions?
No, I think, I mean, it is required by the full board, so we need a motion to move the board.
So we can
approve.
go directly to a motion?
Yeah,
to-
please, you can make that motion.
Oh, I can, coming from the committee. So the committee
Please.
recommends
Yes.
that we approve this, or put it on the, what? Upon the committee's recommendation, I move the board approve it. How's that?
So Barbara, your motion is that you move the board approve the letter of notification for the
Mhm.
new MS in engineering management.
Mhm.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Okay, roll call.
Fleming,
Aye.
Geist,
Aye.
Harper,
Aye.
Oakley. Oh, I'm sorry,
Absent.
absent. Sigardi,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Van Hooser,
Aye.
Wilmore,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Second, we have an approval for a program modification for EDS and counseling and psychology.
Okay.
Barbara, will you make that motion?
Okay, and upon the committee's recommendation, I'll move the board approves the program mod for EDS and counseling and psychology.
So we have a motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Geist. We have motion made and second. Okay, roll call.
Fleming,
Aye.
Geist,
Aye.
Harper,
Aye.
Oakley, Sigardi,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Van Hooser,
Aye.
Wilmore,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Thank you. One more from your committee. Approval of the change in GMAT waiver requirements for the Master of Accountancy. Barbara, do you have a motion?
Sure. Upon the committee's recommendation, I move the board approve the change in the GMAT waiver requirement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made, seconded by Captain Wilmore. Roll call.
Fleming,
Aye.
Geist,
Aye.
Harper,
Aye.
Oakley, Sigardi,
Aye.
Stites,
Aye.
Van Hooser,
Aye.
Wilmore,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Thank you. So we're ready for agenda item number 9. This is items from the Audit and Business Committee report and recommendations. One thing before we jump into that, Dr. Mark Stevens, I don't know when the right time is or how to thank you enough for your service as provost. Earlier, we approved the new provost, but you did an outstanding job.
Yes.
And we truly appreciate it. I wanted to say, too, just in the provost interviews, that, and I told this to Dr. Oldham earlier, it's certainly not my call on what your role should be, but to not utilize your knowledge and experience to assist the new provost would be a tragedy, because I think you're a true asset to this university. Thank you so much.
I just want to second that. And he, not only in his role as provost, but in terms of mentoring leaders and people on campus, is me included. And I can't thank you enough for the opportunities that you've provided us.
Thank you. Okay.
I'll
sorry.
third it, although I already said it.
Okay. All right, agenda item number 9, Audit and Business Committee report and recommendations. Teresa, your first one is on the planning and finance policies, and this is the consent agenda.
Yes, so we have 4 new policies that we're going to propose. Policy 580, capital projects management, 581, in-house construction maintenance projects, including gift in place projects. Policy 582, acquisition and disposal of real property, and Policy 583, lease procurement policy and procedures. And upon the committee's recommendation, I move the board approve all items on the Audit and Business Committee's consent agenda.
We have a second.
Second.
I second.
Just give it security.
Security.
You said it first.
Give it to security so we know he was here. All right, roll call vote.
Fleming. Geist. Harper.
Aye.
Oakley. Segurty.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Van Hooser.
Aye.
Wilmore.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Okay. Teresa, we have the 2018-19 student fees, non-mandatory on the regular agenda.
Yes. So I would, there's two non-mandatory fees for 2018, 2019, two increases, and that's on the parking permits and on the housing fees. And so I would like to make a motion that we approve those two fees, and with the clarification to make sure that the parking fee is for the duration of the FYs that were presented in the committee meeting, which is through
10-year plan.
10-year plan, through the 10-year plan. And so I'd like to move that the board approve those non-mandatory fees.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion made, seconded by Segurty. Roll call vote.
Fleming.
Aye.
Geist.
No.
Harper.
Aye.
Oakley. Segurty.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Van Hooser.
Aye.
Wilmore.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 nay.
Could I ask just
Motion
an
carries.
informational question?
Yes.
Melissa, what was the no vote? I respect her opinion tremendously, and I can't figure out why you would vote a no on that, just so for my information.
I think the 10 years, and also I'm wondering if we need to maybe go back and look at our parking plan and the incremental increase that we have.
Okay, so that almost concludes our regular agenda items. Is there any other business whatsoever? Yeah. Okay, just some quick closing comments. I know this seems like a challenging time for our university and maybe very much a defining moment. My main point is that as a university, we do not allow a misconduct investigation to define us completely. We certainly have some issues and some problems to correct, but I have full faith in this board. I really appreciate and applaud the debate, the discussion. I'm thrilled to have a new student member, and I really do hope that the faculty understands, at least for me personally, that we are not ignoring your concerns and issues, and I feel very, very strongly that we have to do a better job supporting our faculty, paying our faculty, and providing them the opportunities to excel. Because, you know, personally I feel like even maybe you haven't been supported enough, but the job that you're doing I still see reflected in the quality of students that you produce, and the product is phenomenal. So while I go back to Dr. Guy's comments, I know we are not perfect at all, but I am very, very pleased to have the contract with the president, and part of it is that I do believe that he is a humble and honorable and of the character that I want to see in this role. And that's why I'm still sitting here. And that's why I've been supporting this university for many years and have a passion about what we're trying to do in this community. I know we all have passions about it. Just because we have different ideas or views on how it should be done, it doesn't mean we're not on the same team. So having said that as a general comment to the public, please recognize and appreciate that. We respect opinions, but you know, when you make, I would say, negative, destroying comments, that becomes part of the problem and not part of the solution. Maybe I've gone too far, but that's the point I wanted to make. So, seeing nothing else, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your attendance. And I almost forgot, there is a reception. Please enjoy. And if you want to talk to any board members, now's a good time.